Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for The Witcher Season 2 on Netflix. And I overall enjoyed this season a lot more than the first. The first's biggest issue was the whole jumping around timeline-wise. Now granted, if all the characters are in different time periods, I think it would be better to kind of like building block it to the thing that happened in the past the most and then kind of build up into our present kind of thing rather than jumping around and everything. So this season does not have that kind of problem where it's going kind of all over the place. So you get a more kind of structured throughput on the story and characters as well. However, there is still a kind of problem, mainly in reference to Yennefer's character, i.e., she's got some good character development that kind of goes on with certain situations that goes on with her. However, she kind of has to spin wheels for certain instances and wait for the plot to kind of like utilize her effectively for certain things. Otherwise, it focuses more on Geralt and Ciri, and that's actually to the benefit of things going on, in my opinion, because it does a really good job of settling down on their kind of relationship as surrogate father and daughter. And it works very well because it's interesting. Now, granted, since I'm in that kind of weird in between thing of my age range of where I'm not completely like an old as like fuddy duddy, but I'm not like that young motherfucker either. I'm able to see both kind of sides on these kind of things of like Geralt trying to teach Ciri not to be a dumbass, and Ciri, I understanding wanting to be more active and proactive in all these things that are happening to her. It's like I get the understanding of the older kind of mentor figure and the young apprentice trying to learn from it. And I think that they do a very good job of presenting that because Ciri does, she sometimes does some annoying stuff. You know what I mean? Like certain, it's almost a hallmark of being young at a certain point and doing things that are kind of annoying. However, they don't take it into like instances where I'm like, I wouldn't mind if you got fucking killed at all. No. They're able to kind of balance it out well enough to where it's like, yeah, okay, she's good. I understand where she's coming from. Maybe wouldn't have chosen that kind of route for her to go, but yeah. So I really liked and enjoyed that aspect. And then we get towards the end of the season, and Yen kind of enters into that thing as well. So it starts off, and we also get a lot of kind of cool monster kind of moments for Geralt as well. See, the thing is, this goes into more of a kind of less episodic kind of thing that the first season kind of had. I don't know if episodic is the right word. There's certain self-contained kind of things that kind of occurred within the first season, but it's still kind of built towards the same kind of narrative. Here, since it's more narrative driven for this entire season, you don't really have a lot of episodes where you just have Geralt hunting monsters. However, you do get good Geralt monster kicking ass scenes. Like in the first one, we see that Geralt and Ciri pretty much fall upon this one character, Nivellen. Nivelian? I'm pronouncing that weird. I apologize. But it's kind of a riff on Beauty and the Beast, and it was really kind of intriguing just because they go in. Carol's like, what the fuck's going on with this town? Because we'd seen that shit is fucking going nuts. Because people are like, hey, I kind of would like a place to, like, we're merchants and stuff, and we gotta, like, well, on a tavern and shit like that. And then, woof, dead. Ah! Woof, dead. Ah! Woof, dead. Oh, shit. No more people to scream anymore. It's like, something's going on here. And Geralt gets, like, jumped by the dudes like, you look really kind of different. We get the backstory that he helped him with a wyvern situation and let him take credit for shit. And he's like, yeah, I kind of got cursed by a temple kind of thing. It's like, okay, well, I'll have to kind of see what's going on there. And is able to utilize and do interesting kind of magic and everything. And it's like, this doesn't feel right. And, like, the village underneath is, like, getting screwed over. It's like, all right. And they kind of go through, we see this woman kind of like, yeah, I laid out that dress for you, Ciri. It's like, yeah, how do you like it? And I was like, what the fuck's going on with you? And we see that he can't kill himself either. So Geralt's like, all right, Ciri, go to the horse. I want you to, like, bolt given the right kind of circumstance. And he goes in, and we see that it's a Bruxa that's feeding on him, and Geralt starts fighting it. It's like really nuts. Ciri doesn't bolt, of course, and he's like, "I told you to go," because he like elixired up and everything. He's like, "This is fucking nutty." And we learned that like he's in a relationship with her, but the thing is, he like found her. She was injured. He actually pretty much like stabbed her through with a giant ass spear. She's like, wow. It's like, holy jeez. And he's tried to like stop her from doing this. It's like, yeah, but she ate the whole town, and he chops her head off, and then the curse is broken. And we learned that he had also been cursed because he raped a priestess at the temple. And Geralt and Ciri are like, no, screw you. And then he begging Geralt to kill him. He's like, do it yourself. And the thing is, the curse broke because he actually loved the Bruxa. It's like, okay, interesting. So that's how we kind of get started off with them, as we see them then kind of going to Kaer Morhen. And of course, Geralt is pretty much understanding her kind of situation and all the kind of trauma that's ensued, losing her family, everything going on with Cintra, being chased by the Nilfgaardian, and her just feeling like completely and utterly out of control, even though she's able to do certain things with the powers that she has. And Geralt understands that. It's really kind of cool because Henry Cavill really he keeps nailing Geralt's character very well with how he's able to relate to Ciri and talks to her as like an adult. Like, granted, sometimes he doesn't give her all the information because he's still trying to figure things out as well, because most of the time, up until this point, he's just been taking care of himself, so he doesn't really talk much to people. So he doesn't have a lot of practice relating his thoughts other than, fuck, screw you, motherfucker, you're just being a braggart ass dick shit. I'll fucking show your ass up. You know what I mean? Granted, I'm being a little bit more loquacious and verbose with that kind of stuff than Geralt would be, but he calls people out on their shit too. And the thing is, if he would do that, he's usually got to pay the price, and he's fine with doing that. However, now he's got to understand how his actions will affect Ciri and what's going to be going on there. Let's see. Alright, so they kind of get to Kaer Morhen. We get introduced to Vesemir and the rest of the Witchers that are there. They kind of have like a party and everything like that. We get introduced to Eskel, and he had evidently killed Aleshi, or tried to kill Aleshi, and only got like the arm and everything, and is acting kind of like an asshole. And we learned that he's pretty much been infected and transformed into Aleshi. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? It's usually not something that really happens. Killing like one of the prostitutes that he had brought in, and then of course Geralt has to kill him, and it sucks. And Vesemir is trying to figure it out because it's a parental kind of thing. He made these Witchers and everything. We get a little bit more information about like the Witchers, how there was a sacking of Kaer Morhen that took away the mutagens that they were able to use to make Witchers, and that they can't make anymore. And when they're gone, they're gone. And the thing is, we're like, okay, we got a certain amount, that there's about 20. We don't see exactly that amount, but we see a good bit. And towards the end, a lot of like what I'll call red shirt Witchers pop up, because they're only there to pretty much die. It's like, holy shit. It's mainly to kind of motivate Vesemir to be kind of a dickhole to certain kind of things. And it's really kind of weird. I don't think that this is a bad interpretation of Vesemir as we're going through these stories. However, it's very different than what I kind of got from the Witcher 3 game. That's been my most exposure to him. Though granted, at some point I will also read the books as well, because I am interested in the world and everything kind of going on with it. But we see them kind of like be like, hey Geralt, what you been up to, and all that kind of stuff before, of course, everything kind of goes down. And Ciri, of course, wants to train, and Lambert and Colin? Mainly Lambert makes fun of her and everything like that, pretty much motivating her to do all these kind of riskier kind of things. We see her doing all these things. Geralt is training her, teaching her how to do these things, and it's funny. It's really kind of cool because I'm teeter-tottering. I'm like, I understand that Ciri is frustrated because Geralt is just having her beat like straw things. You know what I mean? But the whole kind of point of those kind of training maneuvers is to get the muscle memory to where Yes, it's boring as fucking shit to be like bam, 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 and practice these moves over and over and over again. But once you get to a certain point, and once you get to a certain age, you understand that that is to build up muscle memory to the point where your body reacts before you do. So that way you've got the ability to do different kind of tactics and understand what you need to kind of do. So Geralt's put to a place where he's like can understand and how to do certain kind of things. Um, we see her trying to do this thing, and I do like how they balance it out, where she doesn't succeed right off the bat in certain instances. She gets fucked up. She definitely goes through the John McClane kind of school. She's bleeding around a lot of places, even though that's kind of plot important as well, because it helps kind of people understand like this, what's kind of going on with her, and leads them to be like, oh, okay. While this is going on, we also see that Yennefer is captured by Fringilla, and that she really can't use her magic anymore. And that pretty much is status quo through a lot of the kind of stuff going on. And it's kind of explained that she kind of burnt herself out because fire magic usually needs some kind of catalyst to kind of be utilized. So that's why they usually don't use it. We also see stuff in Aretuza where Stregobor's like, yeah, fucking fire magic. Look what happens. And pretty much try to be like, hey, doing stupid shit against elves and like people with elvish blood. And this like crazy ass woman in Astrad is like, hey, stop being a fucking asshole. And Stregobor's like, eat my ass. And we see that Tissaia and Vilgefortz. I know. Sometimes it's not easy to kind of like link up these names, but they've pretty much utilized their own kind of political positions to like become the kind of heads of what's going on in Aretuza and the Brotherhood. Well, okay, I know that's kind of a lot to kind of like lump in, but they kind of do their own stuff. To say is kind of interesting because of what's kind of going on. She tries to like mind and penetrate Cahir to kind of get information, but is unable to. We see that Yennefer is trying to deal with Fringilla. It's like, hey, okay, fine, take me to Nilfgaard, you fucking bitch. But they get attacked and beset, and then they get pretty much taken by the elves. And we learn that Filavandrel and Francesca are there, and that they are digging around for something. It's like, okay, what the fuck? And the thing is, Yennefer and Fringilla also have these visions of different kind of cloaked people. Francesca gets white, I think Fringilla is black, and Yennefer is red, robed figures, and they find out it's like the Deathless Mother. And we get information throughout the season that this is like the first Witchers captured this demon and enclosed her into this so that way she couldn't escape. It's like, okay, that's pretty freaky. And she pretty much offers power and whatever they kind of want to Fringilla, Francesca, and Yen, mainly because she wants to escape. And it's like, okay, we'll kind of have to see how this goes. And then Yen kind of spins wheels for a little bit throughout most of this stuff. Fringilla kind of goes off to Nilfgaard with Francesca because she's like, hey, I'm going to be in top power position. Francesca's like, I'm going to have a child. And she immediately is like pregnant. I'm like, that's going to be a demon baby, isn't it? However, spoiler, it doesn't turn into a demon baby. However, the ease of that pregnancy is kind of crazy. And the thing is, it makes kind of sense because we see that like all the rest of the elves kind of like celebrate this pregnancy. Because usually elves would be kind of like longer lived, so I think the pregnancies of elves would be kind of fewer and usually be longer or whatnot, so they couldn't like replenish their numbers as fast as like humans would. So I think that's pretty much is what has helped to put them at a disadvantage when trying to fight them to stay on kind of equal footing. Well, they kind of go up, and Nilfgaard's like, we need more people. So Fringilla's like, hey, how about we just integrate all these elves and try and make them into a fighting force to help us take over the north. And it's like, oh, okay. So their partnership kind of works out for a little bit before we get Cahir kind of reintroduced because Yen is like, the Deathless Mother's like, hey, just do what I say and you'll get your magic back. She's like, fuck you. And she pretty much for the most of the season is like, I don't have powers, so how do I kind of deal with this? Now, granted, that character development is good, but the thing is, she's pretty much just doing that spinning wheels as we see other kind of her interacting more with other kind of characters, where she goes back to Artusa to say, like, I thought you were dead. Triss is like, hey, yay. The rest of her kind of like sorceress compatriots are like, we're glad you're alive. And then they like see the Cahir's still there. It's like, all right, cool. Your death has to serve a purpose. And then they're like, yeah, we kind of want you to kill him to prove that you're not Nilfgaardian. It's like, what? Like, and she doesn't think that death would really serve a purpose, and instead, even a raid with like the rest of the like northern kings and royalty decides to like bolt with Cahir, and then they kind of like get to Oxenford and they're trying to figure out kind of what to do. Pretty much get to Nilfgaard, even though, in Cintra, even though they kind of really don't want to, like Yen's like, I don't really give a shit, but they see that like the elves are being undergroundly taken, they're being horrendously treated by a lot of people, and it's just feeding more and more kind of resentment on their ends. I do think you would need a longer season to really dive into that kind of lore aspect, because it does seem to kind of escalate kind of quickly within 8 episodes with it. I mean, granted, with all the lore and everything going on within The Witcher, I understand why there is such kind of animosity and just fucking disgusting behavior on both sides for everything that's been going on. But it kind of comes out of nowhere, but it seems to kind of be amped up faster because you need it to be pretty much front and center to make sure that the plot's going on at a speedier kind of run. So again, it's mainly the 8 episode structure, which needs to be. It's not let the story gets completely bogged down. It works out well enough, but there's certain aspects that I think a longer kind of season really could have benefited from, and potentially even been able to kind of like, if you had more time, you could actually do a little bit more interesting stuff with Yennefer. So she's seeing this. Her and Cahir are trying to figure out. They learn from some elves after some of them get pretty much killed. Like one of them gets killed by like a tentacle monster. That this person, the Sandpiper, is shifting people up to Cintra to save them from what's going on. And we find out it's Jaskier. And Jaskier, of course, enters into that whole kind of thing, but he gets beset by some problems that Yennefer has to try and get him out, because we see that this mage woman, Lydia, gets this mage, Reince, out of prison and uses him to try and find Ciri. And of course, he tries to use Jaskier to that, and Yennefer kind of helps him out, kind of like blast the fire back onto Reince's face, and they are able to kind of like get out. However, she gets captured and instead decides to go back to the mother and be like, Deathless Mother, alright, what do you want? And it's pretty much brought up for that Ciri to bring her for some odd reason. It's like, alright, cool. And Jaskier's in prison. It kind of like links her back up to the plot mostly. We also see that like other kind of moves are being made, like in Redania, we get introduced Dijkstra, who is a mage for the court of the king Vizimir. Not Vesemir, Vizimir. Granted, they do sound similar, even though they're spelled differently, and I will get the confusion and understand it. I'm just relaying the message. So, he's introducing plans. He's pretty much got Dara, who was the elf that pretty much linked up with Ciri, to pretty much be utilized as a spy within Francesca's kind of stuff to figure out shit. They're going to try and make a play for Cintra to, like, make Redania pretty much more important and fuck over anybody else, and have just Chaos and Bedlam and doing their own kind of shit. Ciri's doing some interesting stuff, just like getting through her training and all that. However, we learned that her powers are activating monoliths. So we see like the Leshy kind of pops up, and the thing, it gets killed instantly, and then this other monster's like, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? Ciri kind of tries to escape, but it's like kind of going for her for some reason. And then Geralt does this kick-ass move, just killing it and all that. And they're trying to figure out what's kind of going on. Well, Triss is trying to also help out and trying to be like, hey, Geralt, are you taking care of this girl all right? Have you, like, you understand she's a girl, right? She's got different needs than you and all that. It's like, shit. And we do see that Triss is trying to, like, teach her more the kind of, like, womanly things. And she comes in kind of, like, dressed with, like, prettier hair and everything like that. Lambert tries to make fun of her. It's like, you stupid fucking idiot. Let's see. So we see that Geralt is trying to figure out stuff. Ciri does relate that she like destroyed this monolith thing, and he's like, those things are indestructible. Your power being able to do that would be fucking nasty as shit. Well, he goes and Triss sends him through a portal to learn this kind of stuff from Istrid. They go and see, and he's like, that shouldn't be possible. And learning that there's other monsters and everything. There are connection points from like the conjunction of spheres, and the conjunction of spheres. Granted, I'm going to be bringing this up, and I understand that a lot of places are doing multiverse kind of things. However, this is an integral part to how this story is usually laid out. I.e., there's a lot of different realms, and there's a conjunction of the realms, and they would like all kind of like fuck over together. That's how humans got introduced here. That's how monsters from other places got introduced here. And these monoliths are kind of like those connection points. And as we see, Ciri is like also going into a dream state to kind of learn more stuff about her lineage, finding out the prophecy of Itheling, i.e., creating some kind of super soldier that'll either save the world or destroy it, kind of thing, and mainly as like for shit that's been going on with like elves and humans. It's like, sweet Jesus, that's a lot to lay on the kid. And of course, she's kind of freaking out and trying to get out of that kind of thing. Triss is like, fuck you, kid. And it's like, Jesus Christ, kid, lady. I'd be freaked out too, because I'd be getting like, because she was getting kind of like strangled in the kind of dream thing going on. But I'm like, God damn, it's not the kid's fault. Fuck you, man. Damn. And her powers do activate at another point, and this like Chernobog thing pops up. And it's fucking armored as shit. And Geralt's like, all right, I gotta get back there. Does a kick-ass fight with the damn thing and kills it. It's like, but Ciri, he helped him and Ciri work as a team, and it sucks because the horse rolled the dice. No. He's like, all right, we got to learn more. You got to learn more about your magic and get trained by this. That of course gets filled more stuff by Yen's kind of role later on, but he does take her to a place where he kind of trained with the use of his magic as well, and Neneka's? Something to that effect. Ciri's got this like thing, alright, I'm supposed to do something with it. Yen kind of pops up because she's tracking him for Ciri, and Geralt had learned from Istrid that Yennefer was alive, because in the beginning of the series he had pretty much thought that Yen was dead. Now he's like, she's alive? And Triss didn't tell him. The thing is, Triss did kind of make a move on him, but he's like, I'm okay. And that, I don't know how deep they're going to be going into that, because I learned in the third game or whatnot that him and Triss got together after he got like amnesia from a certain thing. So it's always been kind of a weird kind of relationship with them, even though his true love is Yennefer. How we doing? This is, of course, where Rens pops up and is like, bitch! I want Ciri, asshole. And, well, let's see. Also, before this, we had seen that Ciri's blood is Elder Blood, as we're learning about all this stuff, and that Elder Blood is important in the use of making Witcher mutagen. And Vesemir asked her if she wanted to do that, and she's like, sure, under the one condition that you make me a Witcher with it. And he's like, oh, okay. I'm like, I don't know, but probably using that mutation would affect the availability of her blood to be making more Witcher mutagen. But okay. And Geralt kind of comes back in time to stop that whole thing, because he's like, it could kill you. And that's his parental mode activating. And the thing is, Ciri just wants to be able to do something and be able to fight back on things. And I get that. I totally get that. But the thing is, it's like, alright, I don't know, that could kill you. Vesemir shouldn't have been like, yeah, okay, I understand wanting to make more Witchers. Thing is, Reince had popped up, and Vesemir got fucked up, and Triss kind of like screwed him over, but Reince was able to kind of like bring that back and gave it to Lydia, and she tried to utilize it to do a blood trace on Ciri, which did not go over well for her. We still don't know who her benefactor is. But at the place, Reince catches up with them. We get a really kick-ass fight scene. Like, there are a lot of good fight scenes with Geralt. And here we see him utilizing various different kinds of tactics of armed and unarmed thing, utilizing his signs and sigils very well. I mean, a lot of times we do see like the force push being used, but however, this was a very kind of cool use as somebody was pretty much on him, and he used the force push for him to jump up and then he's gravity. He fell down and his head went into the sword, and he's just like going at it. It's like that's a really well done fight scene. I like that episode in the monastery. You're gonna be good with. That's some good action scenes there, and it's effective as well because the CGI is blended well enough that it doesn't look completely and utterly fake, even though you're like, that's kind of weird to see. Like with the monsters still work out pretty well and are very well just melded together. But the thing is, he's taking care of these kind of guys. Ryan's just trying to like get at Yen and Ciri in this one room, and Yennefer is able to teach her to utilize her powers to open up a portal. They kind of go through there at the place where she had stayed previously with the mother and the kids, and we find out that they were burned, and they get onto some horses. They think that Yen's like, well, Geralt had probably been taken to Nilfgaard at this point to be tortured for information. Ciri wants to help and save him. So she's pretty much going that way. Geralt goes and breaks Jaskier out to figure out what's going on. And Jaskier's like, yeah, she fucking like teleported away after saying these words. Is like, Deathless Mother, Voleth Mare. That's a demon thing. We need to fucking stop this. She's probably gonna... That ain't good. But they do get to Cintra, and Ciri's able to kind of utilize her powers more. She kind of like connects a little bit with Yen. She's pretty much trying to utilize her powers, and she's like, stop, you're gonna like do some shit. As she's like bleeding from her eyes, and she's like pissed off because she's trying to help someone who's protected her again, and she feels like she's failing. And they're able to communicate that well enough as she then utilizes her more elder powers as she screams, and then conveniently her, Yen, and the horses are all on the other side of the river. Like, I could accept her and Yen. The horses like that, it's just like, alright. Like, I needed a little bit more with certain kind of things. I'm like, okay, I understand it's plot convenient. We only have so much time, and you don't want to be like, hey, they found some other horses. But it does show the kind of difference in the powers of utilizing the chaos and her like elder blood kind of stuff. Alright, so they're getting to Cintra and shit's kind of getting real. Let me back up a little bit to get everything kind of situated up. So... Well, Geralt is able to kind of get there in time. They're like crossing the mile. You're able to do that. And then as they touch, Ciri's able to read Yen's mind for some odd reason. Not saying that there's not a valid reason, but there's not enough time for them to kind of do it. And she's like, you're going to try and send me to something. And she's like, get away from me. Ah! And then, of course, the Nilfgaardians are trying to like come out and get them. But Geralt shows up in enough time, whoops some ass with the dwarf that they had met up with previously during the whole dragon escapades. He's like, yeah, I got this shit. And he's like, Yen, fuck you with this shit. And then sends her back to Kaer Morhen. So, while this is going on, we see that Fringilla is trying to, like, utilize her power kind of stuff. Cahir had gotten back into Cintra and was, like, trying to do his whole kind of thing. Pretty much telling her that she was stupid to do this stuff with the elves, antagonizing them to a certain degree as well. Well, Francesca does give birth to the baby. All the elves celebrate and everything, and it's a regular elfin baby. It's like, alright, where's the other shoe dropping on this motherfucker? Because the Deathless Mother feeds on pain and fear, so what are they kind of getting at on this one? So we see that Fringilla is losing all kinds of like power. This one general is being a complete and utter douche nozzle, and she's like, alright, to keep my shit, she just like kills all these generals and tells Cahir, you better fucking back my ass. Well, we see that the pain and fear that kind of works with Francesca is that her baby is killed. Gets a baby, and we see that Filavandrel goes and it's dead. And this sets the elves off. Dara had stopped spying for Redania at this point, thinks it's marched on to Redania because killed the baby. Elves scatter and stuff like that because they're thinking of settling down, growing their numbers and everything like that more. And that they didn't need Nilfgaard. This, of course, was a threat to Fringilla's kind of stuff and what was going on with Nilfgaard, because she was acting on her own kind of accords instead of the White Flame, the Emperor of Nilfgaard, who we see at the end of the season. This becomes important because then Francesca kind of like bolts and takes the rest of them and decides to go on a warpath of killing all these babies in Redania. And the thing is, I understand the pain of, like, I have not lost a child, but I understand how intensive a pain that would be. But to visit that upon other people like she does magically, and just like, these children did nothing. They had no. I'm just like, yeah, you one upped. Alright? And the thing is just like, you'd think Redania was behind it, but it's not. It was actually under Nilfgaard's orders. I mean, Cahir was pretty much going to try and drum it up that it was Fringilla, but we learned that the Emperor himself ordered it. And it's just like, it's fucked up. Like, that's just continuing the cycle of hate and one-upping. And it's like, okay, so, remember this action you took when, they come for your ass. And it's like, you find the people that did it, and you bring justice that way. You don't go to those kids. They were babies, man. Fuck that noise. Ugh. Creepy, man. Always freaks me out, man. Not that I can't handle it. It's just, ooh, when you get that involved, you gotta like, ooh. We'll have to see kind of how that shakes out and everything. I could technically finish up the Nilfgaardian explanation ship before we get to the other stuff. So, Cahir and Fringilla tried and brung it up, but like, Emperor Emir is like, yeah, I did that, and I want you to find my daughter. And we find out that it's Dunny. Cyrilla's father is Emperor Emir. It's like, oh, okay, we're going to have to get some more information on that, because this is getting kind of crazy and mucked up. Now, granted, I knew from, like, the third game that kind of is the case, but I don't know exactly all the intricacies and what goes on with the story of what's behind that and what's going on with the whole thing of, like, him and the mother and what all kind of happened with that. So it's like, okay. So we see that, now that's pretty much at the end of the season. We see that on the way to Kaer Morhen, Ciri is possessed by the Deathless Mother because, of course, the death of the baby and all the pain and fear and everything that Francesca was pretty much doing unleashed Bolethmir. Geralt and Yen tried to go after and pretty much like take care of that shit. However, he's like, oh shit, she got out. And then we see that Ciri's pretty much possessed and starts killing some witchers at Kaer Morhen. Vesemir's pretty much like, I'm gonna take that bitch out. It's like, don't even want to kind of try. Geralt's able to kind of like do that. Jaskier kind of helps Yen try and figure some shit out. And then we see that Ciri pretty much like is able. They do a good job of differentiating between Ciri and the Deathless Mother. So I do give props to the actress that plays Ciri because she is able to make a clear distinction between those two. We see that Ciri is pretty much in her like dream world for most of the time, like with her grandmother and like her mother and father and all that kind of stuff. It goes on a little bit longer for my tastes. Not too much longer, but like we see that the grandmother and the other dude disappear, then the mother and father and everything. I'm like, I get Ciri is pretty much trying to, it's showing like she desperately wants that world and wants to be in there because pretty much her life is shit at this point. And I understand her at the end of this being like, I'm tired. And Geralt's like, yeah, I get that. And it's like, but the thing is, we can only do is move forward and help you with your destiny. It's like, fuck destiny? Fuck that noise. Fuck this shit. All this shit. Jeez. But I get it. I'm like, yeah, Ciri, I'm tired too. Geralt's tired too. Yen looks tired too. I get it. Gotta stop that shit. But we see that the Deathless Mother starts screaming. We see that there's a monolith in the tree that has the Witcher medallions of the dead Witchers, and she's able to utilize it to bring forth monsters, these basilisks, and we just see the red shirts like interesting kills, like faces bitten off, heads decapitated, and Witcher's kind of popping up out of nowhere. It's almost like there were more Witchers than the 20. It's like, there's a lot of dead and beat Witchers here. Sweet Jesus. Well, Yen's trying to figure out her own kind of thing of dealing with this thing. Geralt's trying to get through to Ciri, but then she's like, alright. Then, of course, Jaskier was given this rock, and it gets Geralt in his mind, like, alright, if she's not from here, let's fucking send her home. The Deathless Mother, Voleth Meir, and the thing is, they're trying to get her out of Ciri, and Yen decides, like, alright, I'll make myself the vessel. Slits her wrists, and I think tries to summon her as a vessel, which makes kind of not a lot of sense. But it still kind of works. I didn't know why. Though, granted, there was a good Geralt scene where he kills a basilisk that pops up that was actually pretty badass. Have to at least mention that. However, Ciri kind of utilizes her scream thing. Her, Geralt and Yen get sucked into this other world that's got the Wild Hunt. We've been hearing about that this whole season. And the thing is, I'm not quite delved into their lore here, but we see that Voleth Meir pops up and becomes part of the Wild Hunt, and that they're coming for Ciri for like her power and her daughter of chaos and like destroying and stuff like that. But they're able to get back. It's like, it's kind of weird. And that's of course when we see Ciri say that she's tired. I'm like, I don't get how Yen doing that made her a vessel for Voleth Meir, who then immediately popped up, and we see that she has now regained her powers. And those kind of bits needed to be better explained or better showcased, I believe, at least for me. Like, I don't mind that they happen. It's the execution of how it was. It's like, how does that... Like, if she was using her life's blood as, like, a summoning, binding thing for Voleth Meir for her, as a vessel, that would make more sense to me. And then, her getting her magic back, I was just like, alright, how did that kind of work? Is it because she essentially fulfilled the bargain with the Deathless Mother, and that kind of brought it back? I don't know. It was kind of unclear for me, and I just needed... I don't need to be spoon-fed or be like a giant sign that says, this is what has occurred. I just need a little bit more. But we see that they kind of work their way out. They're going to try and travel around, help Ciri out, because they don't want to stay in one place too long, because they'll be a target and everything. Vesemir kind of like gets his head out of his ass, and I'm like, okay, cool, I've lost some Witchers. I shouldn't have treated Ciri like that, because he fucking stabbed her, and then she fucking healed because of the Deathless Mother, and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Ymir stuff's completely at the end. We see a meeting of the Northern Kings with Tissaia, and they're like, you know what? We got to put a bounty out on Ciri. I was like, oh shit, because they don't want Redania to pretty much lock onto Cintra by getting Ciri, and most of the other ones are like, yeah, she's a danger, go after her. We also see that Francesca gets learned information from Istrid about Ciri being the whole Ithiliene's child prophecy. She's like, alright, we gotta go help Ciri, we gotta use her to pretty much end all the peoples. It's like, sweet Jesus, like, go after the humans. I'm like, God damn it. Oh, I understand that people have fucking shit, and it's like, I get it. You people have been fucked over. It's really interesting watching this and watching The Expanse and seeing these kind of reactions, and I'm like, I feel for you and I understand your pain, but visiting that pain on others is never the solution. Or trying to get a giant super weapon or turn a child into a super weapon to utilize that is stupid and wrong, and fuck you, that's why. Like, what if she doesn't want to do it? What if she just wants to help everybody and you're like, no, kill all the humans? Like, fuck you, I understand you're hurt, I understand you have pain, but fucking deal with it in a healthy way, and don't go kill any more babies. Ya bitch. Oh. But overall, I enjoyed this season because I like to see all the different kind of character interactions and growths. Yennefer's was the weakest in my opinion, not for any lack of the actress, but just because she had to spin wheels a lot and do some weird kind of ass pull at the end to pretty much get the demon thing into her and then get her magic back. And again, that's more, it needs to be executed and shown a little bit better, or even at least told, rather than completely on the character herself. Geralt and Ciri were really top form. Fringilla was interesting because I thought that she would annoy me more, but she had a really kind of interesting kind of character arc about what was going on. Francesca was interesting to show the elven perspective and what kind of goes on with that. So I'm really interested to see what other kind of things that they go on with The Witcher for Netflix, what the next season will bring. I do know that there's an animated one that I gotta watch, and that they are doing a prequel thing with elves, so we'll kind of have to see how that kind of goes on. But overall, I definitely would recommend this if you were into the Witcher season, the first season. I would actually even just recommend, like, I don't really do this often, but if you did not like the kind of story structure of the first season, like, that really wasn't for me, I definitely think you would like this better, even with the different kind of problems that prop up for it. And if you heard what was going on with the first season, like, that doesn't sound for me, I would still kind of recommend the second season because it flows better and has a better kind of overall plot that's less trying to figure out where and when the fuck I am, and more just like, alright, cool, let's kind of see what this goes. So they got good character stuff, they got a kind of tighter and a more easily understandable plot kind of sequence, and the action scenes are pretty damn good, and I really like them and enjoyed them. So, those are my opinions on this season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.